Hi, everybody. We're going to start chapter 10, and chapter 10 is a good one. It's all about personality, and we get to spend a good amount of time talking about Freud, which is always entertaining. The reason why we're doing chapter 10 before chapter 8 is because of the personality paper. So I want you to have this week to get your understanding of trait theory down, and then you can use that when you write your personality paper, which I will have that video up, detailing how to do that assignment. I'll have that video up soon. All right, so let's get started. We're on chapter 10, personality. So what do we do first? We define it. And when we use the term personality, we often talk about it as quantifiable, like somebody has a lot of personality or doesn't have any personality, or we might try to say somebody's personality is good. They have a good personality or a bad personality. But when we're talking about personality in psychology, we are going with the assumption that everybody has one, right? It is your unique core set of characteristics, and it influences everything about you. It influences the way you think, how you behave, your emotional reactions and responses. And your personality is something that is relatively consistent and enduring through the lifespan. We say relatively because there can be some slight changes, especially when we look at trait theory. We'll talk about some of the very minor changes to our personality that can occur. But it is still pretty consistent and enduring. Consistent also means that we're the same people from situation to situation. You know Sarah Rankin, you know Lewis and Clark's Sarah Rankin. Sarah Rankin in other situations isn't much different, right? You are interested in personality and learning a lot more than we do in just this one chapter. I do teach a class called Personality Psychology in the fall. So it's up on the Godfrey campus on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, I believe. Anyway, personality theory is then how we explain personality. When we start talking about personality, the first person we need to discuss is good old Sigmund Freud. There he is. You remember from learning about the different perspectives in psychology that the psychoanalytic perspective, we associated that with Freud, and it's all about these conflicts that come from childhood. We'll walk through the different stages he believes we go through. And all these conflicts from our early childhood, especially ones involving mom, he was kind of a negative mom person, influence the person we become. Now, as we go through his theory, you're going to notice a lot of negativity. It's not a happy theory of personality. It's dark and it's negative. And Freud's life helps explain why his theory is so dark. He was a Jew in Europe. He had to flee his home because of the rise of the Nazis. The Nazis burned his books. He witnessed World War I, the bloodiest war we had had, where we combined new war technology with old-fashioned methods, and we ended up with literal bloodbaths. He had a child die. He had a research partner who stole all his research. By the way, his research specialty, he went to medical school and wanted desperately to be a researcher and worked on the question of cocaine. He and his research partner were the ones who figured out that cocaine is addictive. Wonder how. But his partner took all the research, published it under his own name, and gave Freud no credit. Like I said, he really wanted to be a researcher. He realized that as a Jew and with anti-Semitism so prevalent in Europe and around the world, that he could never have a successful career as a researcher. So he decided to open a clinic and see patients who had what today we might call somatic illnesses, but strange things happening to their body that had no physiological explanation. So, not Not a great background, not a great life. There's even more to it than that. But just remember, as we look at the world through his lens and think, my goodness, this guy is negative, it kind of came from his own life experiences. Oops, sorry about that. So Freud proposed that the mind has 3 levels of consciousness. When we're talking about our conscious mind, it's just the same stuff we talked about in chapter 4. It's all that stuff we're aware of at any given moment. It is our conscious. But lying beneath our conscious is what he called our preconscious. Our preconscious is stuff that isn't in your conscious mind right now, but you could draw it back up. It's kind of like a memory, but we're not going to really equate it with memory. But if you want an easy way to think of it, your preconscious is kind of like your memory. It's the stuff that you can bring back to the surface. You may not be thinking about it now, but if asked about it, you could recall it. And then the lowest level of our unconscious, which is actually also the biggest level of our conscious mind, is the unconscious. And some people say subconscious. That's technically not correct. In pure psychoanalytic verbiage, we're going to call it the unconscious mind. And the unconscious is this deep, dark place that has a tremendous influence on everything we do, but it's outside of our awareness. We cannot access our unconscious mind very readily. He used an analogy of an iceberg to talk about how these levels influence us and how much of the people that we are they comprise. So here's our conscious mind. It's this tip of the iceberg, the part that sticks out above the water that we can see. And that's a nice analogy. This is the stuff that's going on in our mind in any given moment. The preconscious, it's that part of the iceberg that we can kind of see beneath the water. Again, it's the stuff that we can access and put into our conscious mind, but it's just not anything that you're paying attention to at the moment. And then our unconscious is this deep, dark place down in the depths of the ocean that is very, very difficult for us to access. And as you can see, he also says that's the biggest part of who we are, which is interesting. If we blow up that unconscious, this bottom part of the iceberg, he said that there are 2 things going on here. There are 2 forces at play, and they're battling it out against each other. The first force is called Eros, and that's the life force. And the other one is called Thanatos, which is the death force. And those 2 things are fighting in the deepest, darkest parts of who we are. And Freud believed that at the heart of everything we do, it's a battle between life and death. It's a battle between Eros and Thanatos. Eros manifests itself in our sex drive, and Thanatos manifests itself in aggression and also violence, but our own self-destructiveness. We can turn Thanatos against ourselves. So those 2 things make up the biggest part of who we are and are responsible for everything we do. What do you think about that? I'll stop the video here. We'll get into id, ego, and superego in the next one, and I think you'll like that a lot.